The wedding invitation slipped from Daniel Reed's hand. He stared at the thick ivory card, then at the woman standing across the empty hotel corridor. Wait, his voice barely came out. Why does my name say Groom? The CEO stepped closer, lowered her voice, and whispered for words that made his stomach drop. You're the groom, Daniel. For a moment, neither of them moved. Behind the ballroom doors, hundreds of guests were laughing, champagne glasses were clinking, and an orchestra was warming up. Daniel looked down at the invitation again. His name was printed beside hers. Evelyn Hart, the most powerful woman in the city. And Daniel was a 40-year-old single father who repaired elevators for a living. He had never even been invited to a wedding like this. He certainly had never expected to be the groom. But what frightened him most wasn't the wedding. It was the look in Evelyn's eyes. She wasn't joking. 3 hours earlier, Daniel had been standing inside the service elevator of the Hartwell Hotel, wiping grease from his hands. His 8-year-old daughter, Lily, was waiting at home with his sister because Daniel had promised to take her to the Science Museum after his shift. He had already missed one weekend with her that month. His ex-wife had moved out of state years earlier, leaving Daniel with custody and a stubborn determination never to make Lily feel abandoned. That morning, Lily had slipped a folded drawing into his lunch bag. It showed 3 stick figures holding hands. Daniel smiled every time he thought about it. Then the elevator suddenly stopped. Not the one carrying guests, the private executive elevator. And inside stood Evelyn Hart. She was supposed to be attending an emergency board meeting on the top floor. Instead, she was trapped with a toolbox-carrying mechanic who smelled faintly of machine oil. Daniel worked quickly. Stay calm, he said. Evelyn gave him a sharp look. I am calm. You've been pressing the emergency button every 10 seconds. She stopped. For the first time that morning, the intimidating CEO almost smiled. Daniel fixed the fault in 11 minutes. But before the doors opened, Evelyn noticed something on his wrist. A faded blue hospital bracelet. Daniel instinctively covered it. My daughter, he explained quietly. She had surgery last year. Evelyn's expression changed. She didn't ask what happened. That small restraint stayed with her. The doors opened. Daniel stepped aside. Evelyn walked out, then turned. What's your name? Daniel Reed. She nodded once. Thank you, Daniel. He thought that was the end of it. It wasn't. That evening, Daniel arrived home and found a black envelope waiting on his kitchen table. Inside was the wedding invitation. His first thought was that it had been delivered to the wrong house. His second was that someone was playing a cruel joke. Then he saw Evelyn's handwritten note. Come alone. 7 p.m. Daniel nearly threw it away. But something about the handwriting made him pause. At 7, he entered the hotel ballroom. The room looked like something from another world. White roses, crystal chandeliers, hundreds of candles, and a long aisle stretching toward an empty altar. Evelyn was standing beside it. No groom, no fiancé, no family beside her. Just her. Daniel approached carefully. What is this? She handed him another envelope. Inside was a photograph. A young man stood beside Evelyn. Daniel recognized him immediately. His breath caught. It was Thomas Hart, Evelyn's younger brother. Daniel had met him once. Years ago, Thomas had been the passenger in a highway accident that Daniel had stopped to help during a winter storm. Daniel had pulled him from a crushed car before emergency crews arrived. But Thomas hadn't survived. Daniel remembered the sirens, the blood on his hands, the way Thomas had whispered one final sentence. Tell my sister. I was trying to come home. Daniel had never found her. Until now. Evelyn's eyes filled with tears. You saved my brother that night. Daniel shook his head. I couldn't save him. No, she said softly. But you stayed. That was the first twist. The wedding wasn't a romance. Not yet. It was connected to a promise Thomas had left behind. Years earlier, Thomas had discovered that Evelyn was about to marry a man she didn't love because their families expected it. Thomas had challenged her. He told her that if she ever wanted to marry, she should choose someone who stayed when there was nothing to gain. Someone who showed up when nobody was watching. Someone who didn't need applause to do the right thing. Evelyn had remembered those words. After Thomas died, she spent years believing she had failed him. Then she found Daniel. But Daniel wasn't the only one who had been keeping secrets. Evelyn admitted the wedding was supposed to happen that night because her board was preparing to remove her as CEO. Her late father's will required Evelyn to remain married for 6 months to retain voting control of the family foundation. Her original fiancé had disappeared 2 weeks earlier after revealing he had only planned to marry her for financial access. The board had already scheduled the vote. She needed a husband, but she didn't want a fake one. She wanted someone she could trust. Daniel stared at her. "You want me to marry you? For 6 months?" He almost laughed. Then he remembered Lily. "I have a daughter." "I know. You don't know her." "I don't need to," Evelyn replied. "I know what kind of father you are." Daniel looked toward the ballroom. "This isn't fair to her." Evelyn nodded. "No, it isn't." That answer surprised him. She wasn't trying to manipulate him. She was admitting the truth. Daniel walked away. For the first time, Evelyn didn't chase him. He went home and sat beside Lily while she slept. Her science museum ticket was still on the refrigerator. Daniel stared at it until his eyes burned. He realized something painful. He had spent years teaching Lily that keeping promises mattered. But sometimes keeping a promise to your child meant refusing an opportunity that could change your life. The next morning, Daniel returned to the hotel. He placed the invitation on Evelyn's desk. "I can't marry you." Evelyn closed her eyes. "I understand, but I'll help you." She looked up. Daniel explained that he had discovered something strange about the hotel's maintenance records. Someone had been secretly disabling security systems around the building. He believed the board wasn't merely trying to remove Evelyn. Someone was preparing to destroy evidence before the vote. Together, they investigated. The final twist came that afternoon. The sabotage wasn't ordered by Evelyn's enemies. It was being done by the hotel's head of security, someone Evelyn trusted completely. He had been selling confidential information to one of the board members. Daniel's repair logs accidentally exposed the pattern. The evidence saved Evelyn's company. But Daniel still walked away. No wedding. No billionaire lifestyle. No magical transformation. 6 months later, Evelyn found him at the Science Museum. Lily was showing Daniel a model rocket. Evelyn stood nearby holding a small envelope. Inside was the original wedding invitation. She had crossed out one word, Groom. Underneath, she had written, Friend. Daniel smiled. That sounds safer. Evelyn laughed. Much safer. Then Lily looked between them. Are you two dating? Daniel and Evelyn exchanged a glance. For once, neither rushed to answer. Some stories don't need a wedding to have a happy ending. Sometimes love begins when two people stop trying to force the ending. Daniel had entered Evelyn's life because she needed a husband. He stayed because they discovered something more valuable than a contract. Trust. And Evelyn finally understood what her brother had meant years earlier. The person worth choosing isn't the one who arrives when the spotlight is on. It's the one who stays when nobody is watching. Because real love isn't proven by who stands beside you at the altar. It is proven by who stays beside you when the altar disappears.